Well, there's lots of news out there on the Appalachian Trail. One of the things that happened this week was we had a death that was on the trail, so that's tragic for a hiker to die out there on the trail. We've also got some great things going on out there on the trail, so let's go ahead and get to what's going on with the news on the trail. So I'm Ramdino. I'm here to support the Thru Hikers and support the Thru hiking community and just in general the hiking community. So I do this each week, bring you these news and what's going on with the hikers. So let's just dive right in what's going on out there on the news. So we did, as I indicated before, we did have a death out there on the trail in the White Mountains. Christopher Roma, his trail name was Rafiki, and he was 37, and he was known in the area up there in New Hampshire as an expert hiker. So he was a triple crowner, meaning he had hiked the PCT, the CDT, and the Appalachian Trail, and he hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2018. So it's likely some of my audience knows him, particularly by the trail name of Rafiki. And so, but he was known pretty much as an expert hiker up there, certainly well accomplished. And what occurred is he got on the trail with with a group of folks, and he had an outfitting company, and he was known to take people out onto the trail. He wanted them to experience what all of us on the trail experienced, but he wanted them to experience the life-changing way the trail can have on everybody's life, physically and mentally. And so he wanted people to experience that, and wanted people just to experience the things that happen on the trail. And so he took them out there. The group turned back because the conditions got so bad. Conditions were single digits and negative digits for wind chill. There was also waist deep snow, and it was getting worse. And so the group felt like they would turn back. And unfortunately, Rafiki did not turn back. He decided to continue on. Once he did, and they got back down, his group called 911 and indicated they were concerned about him. And then he actually made a 911 call, indicated that he was in trouble and needed help up there. And so he talked to the folks 911 for several hours, reportedly, and they were able to pinpoint his position there at Mount Guyute. And before the call dropped, he said that he was getting very cold. And so that is unfortunate. They search and rescue got together sometime around 2 a.m. is when they stepped off, and it took them about 15 hours to get to him. Unfortunately, when they did reach him, he was deceased more than likely from the conditions up there. I've not heard anything about injury or anything else other than it was just the terrible, terrible conditions that were going on. It's unfortunate something like that happens. They tried to dispatch the National Guard helicopters, and they could not get in there to him because of the cloud cover and because of the conditions and the winds that were around Mount Guyute. And so once they did get to him, they elected not to pull his remains off the mountain because it was going to be a very difficult extrication to get him off of there. Would be risking the lives and health of the search and rescue and our recovery personnel that were there. So they waited till the next day till they could get a chopper in there. Rafiki, he leaves behind a 2-year-old son. And of course the hiker community there that knew him and loved him. And it's just so unfortunate that something like that happened. There is a GoFundMe that has been started for him. And you can go there if you want to give to that, and they will use that for funeral arrangements, celebration of life arrangements, and then also as some support for his son. I do want to give a shout out to the 15 conservation officers, the pilots that tried to get in there, the National Guard, and also the 30 volunteers that tried to get to him and tried to rescue him in time. So all of that is very life-threatening for all of those folks. Reportedly, some of them had to turn back because they were getting frostbite. So just kudos to them for the bravery and the courage and that they showed and the love they showed for trying to get somebody off the mountain. Unfortunately, it's not unusual for this to happen each year, a death up there in the White Mountains or a death on the trail somewhere. Most of the time, these deaths are preventable. Unless there's a rock slide or something like that, they are preventable. And I would encourage folks to turn back when conditions get the least bit sketchy, because not only could you put yourself at risk your family, you got to think about your family and those you leave behind. And you also got to think about the other people that are putting themselves at risk to come out there and try to get you off the mountain or out of the woods or whatever. So, very sorry to hear that. Our thoughts and prayers go out there to the Roma family. Calendars. So this will be the last week that you can get calendars from a merch store. So I got a couple of my favorite calendars. This is from the Roan Mountain Highlands, and you got just a lot of shots from the Roan Mountain Highlands there. That just my favorite spot on the trail is this section here. And so you got the rest of this week, or next week rather, to go ahead and pick up one of those calendars if you want to. Again, I've also got just trail photos, regular trail photos throughout the course of the trail, just different spots on there that are kind of iconic places on the trail. So go and check that out. And then also, I have we put in some new merch there this week. This calendar's be going away, but this week we put in some merch for the Fresh Ground in his Leapfrog Cafe. So if you don't know who Fresh Ground is a trail angel that spends 9 months out of the year going up and down the trail feeding hikers, typically on the AT. He has been known to go to the CTC, the PCT, and he's just coming back from the Florida Trail. So he is in the middle of a fundraiser right now, raising money for the Nobo hikers on the AT. And so what we did is we put together some coffee mugs there. We've got an 8-ounce mug, and because Fresh Ground is known for his fresh ground coffee, 8 ounces is just not enough, so we got an 11-ounce mug in there as well, and a portion of the proceeds for each of these mugs and the sales of those will go to the Leapfrog Cafe. It is a 501c3 ministry, so your money that you give to it is tax deductible, and you can go to his Facebook page, Leapfrog Cafe, and you can find all kind of means and way that you can give to Fresh Ground and help support the hiker community and indeed the Nobo, Sobo, flip-floppers, everybody that's out there on the trail. So winter brings some road closures. Obviously, there's a lot of road closures up north because of all the winter, but down south here where you don't expect there to be necessarily a lot of road closures, there have been some. Keep in mind, particularly if you're out there on the trail, that the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, there's one road that runs through the main portion of the park and that the Appalachian Trail crosses over, and that's there at Newfound Gap. And that road can close. It has been closed this week. It may have reopened by now, but it closes anytime they've got a lot of snow because they don't typically plow it until it quits snowing. But also even in wind events, it will close because it's got a lot of trees on it. Those trees come down, and so it's dangerous out there for cars, but also it would block the road and now create an issue of having to go in and get people out of there. So they will shut it down for high winds, particularly in the winter. And that's important for hikers because that is the only place in the park where you can get off trail to get in for resupply or to get in for an emergency for bad weather conditions or something there at Newfound Gap. So your only choice is to spend the night in the restroom there. So there have been plenty of people that have done that before. Those are not the greatest accommodations, and there is no resupply inside those restrooms. So there's nothing there other than restrooms. So keep that in mind as you're going on your trip through the Smokies and planning that out. Look at the weather ahead and make sure that you're not going to have conditions where you've either got the right gear to get through the Smokies for bad conditions and you've got the right amount of resupply if there's a chance at all of that closing down. And then we've also had some seasonal road closures down in Georgia that affect access to the Appalachian Trail. So keep those in mind whenever you are worried about resupply or bailout points, particularly if you're just getting on trail. This is a new through hike for you. And a lot of people, as we know, they bail out before they ever get to Neal Gap. And so you've got to be cognizant of what roads are closed so that shuttles can get to you. The best way to do that is to go to the Chattahoochee/Oconee National Forest website, and they will have on there what roads are closed, what roads are open. and so on and so forth. We did have some trail closure up in Pennsylvania due to some flooding we had a couple weeks ago, washed out a bridge, and there is a reroute, but right now that's not affecting any NOBO or any SOBO that may have already started. And I think we have had a few SOBOs started, and I couldn't find it. Somebody did mention to me that a couple SOBOs started, so if you could get those back to me, I'd appreciate it so that I could bring those up next week. So folks that are out there on the trail right now, we've been talking about Matthew, of course, and Matthew has been reporting in on a regular basis. And he has sent us in a few videos that are very interesting. I'm going to show those to you because they kind of give you a taste of what he's experiencing, what a normal person would experience out there on the trail. And Matthew did get a trail name, and his trail name now is 111. So here is his survival update from the Low Gap shelter.
Ramdino, this is Matthew. Thank you again for the shout out. I am at Low Gap Shelter. When I got here, this was a quaint little spring. Could barely fill up the bladder. Today, obviously, you can see it's flowing very nicely. Wanted to let anybody and everybody know behind me that Georgia's full of water. So no need to worry about carrying a whole lot of water between sections. There is plenty out here. This is the update from Matthew. Thank you.
He said it was windy up there with a lot of rain, started around 11 o'clock. And then he said as of 12:45, it was still raining up there. And then from the Trey Mountain Shelter, he decided to hunker down there because of bad weather. And he sent in another video on that. So take it away, 111.
All right, Ramdino. This is Matthew. It is Friday the 12th. I got up early this morning, just short of the cheese factory. I saw the storm coming in and made it to Trey Mountain. And I'm glad I did. It's ice instead of rain. So I'm going to stay here till the storm passes. Maybe through tonight. And I should be at Around the Bend Hostel either Saturday or Sunday. I'll keep you updated.
So he said he doesn't mind the extra time in the shelters on days like that. He really doesn't like sleeping in shelters, but it's better than putting up a wet, frozen tent. He said there's lots of wet and cold going on out there. To be honest, that kind of looks pretty peaceful up there. It kind of looks pretty relaxing. I don't know that I could stay in a shelter for a whole day. I've met people that did do that before, but I just don't. I've got that get there-itis. I've got to get on the trail to do that, and that's something I got to work on personally about just slowing down and enjoying the trail. But anyway, he is, of course, by now he is into North Carolina. He says it's been getting down in the single digits. But he's been having no issues so far. He's excited because he's got his first state down. He said that it's 17 degrees where he was at and 1 inch of snow. And he says the entire trail from the north of Bly Gap to Standing Indian Shelter is completely solid frozen ice. So he says, do not attempt that shelter without spikes or some type of traction devices on your feet. He said every inch of the trail is just a solid ice. So he just wanted to give everybody that warning when they were up there, but he did say he was doing fine and he was going really slow with everything frozen solid, and he sent this video in from Standing Indian Mountain.
This is the top of Standing Indian Mountain. It's currently 10 degrees maybe. It's a little chilly.
That just looks freaking burr. I don't know that I could hike in that colder temperatures. I don't plan when I do my through hike. I do not plan to hike in that. Although I have been out when it's been that cold, and it's really, really peaceful, really nice out there to see all that snow. But let's move on to some other folks. So Warhammer, he's out there on the trail. He started on the 8th from the lodge and took the lime green trail up to the approach trail, and said it was very cold on top. Cross Blood Mountain, and he said it was very cold there, but now he is past Unicoi Gap. He said he did not check in down there at the Amicalola Falls State Park to get him a number, so he did not register. So he's one of those folks out there, the 10 to 25% of folks that don't register their hike. But he did say, to sum it up, it's just darn cold out here. Then Cap Jack and Bob Ross, I've had a lot of folks tell me, hey, you need to be following these guys. Well, normally how I work things is that I don't have time to follow everybody that's out there on the trail. So normally, and I try to follow people, but normally the folks that I'm putting here out each week are folks that they have checked in with me, giving me their updates. And so Cap Jack and Bob, they have not been doing that. So that's why I have not been updating them. I did see where they had gotten past the Around the Bend Hostel, which means they are into North Carolina now. Five Stack, he has made it to Weigh Gap, and he expects to be entering the Smokies sometime around the middle of this coming week. And he's excited about that. Says it may happen sometime around the 24th, but he is looking forward to getting into the Smokies, and that is always a big thing in there when people they kind of look at the Smokies as kind of their first big test. So getting on trail, I guess, is your first test, and making it past Neal's Gap, and then getting in the Smokies and getting through the Smokies. That is what folks they almost dread that to start off with. But once they get through and they realize, hey, I can take what this trail's got for me. Drifter and Blue, they got started at Amicalola Falls State Park, and they were numbers 32 and 53. And so they are well on their way. They did the approach trail as well. So looking forward to their continued hike and getting the updates from them. And I started looking at where we should actually be for the number of hikers that have stepped off, and we should be somewhere in the low 50s by now with the registrations. And I called down at Amicalola Falls State Park, talked to the visitor center. Indeed, they did say we're somewhere around 50 or 52 as of about an hour ago. So those numbers were increased. Bon Voyage has gotten started and is on her way to Neal Gap. And Jolly, he's made it to the trail, and he says he is past Unicoi Gap. So those are folks that are off my support list. If you want to be on that support list, we've got somewhere around approaching 100 hikers that are on there. And the support list is just there for a place that you can go and find, hiker community can go and find Thru Hiker's social media accounts so that they can go and support them through those social media accounts throughout the course of their hike. Doesn't matter if it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, trail journals, whatever, people can go and find you there. So if you're a Thru Hiker, you can put yourself on that list. There's a link down below to do that. And if you are one of the hiker community just following along, there's a link down to find the folks that are on that as well. So let me ask at this time, if you're enjoying my updates, I'd greatly appreciate giving me a thumbs up. Helps the algorithm, helps other folks find this channel, brings them to it so that we can continue to build a hiker community who in turn can continue to support the Thru Hikers. Give me a comment. Love all your comments, and we'll be answering some of those comments in just a few minutes. A lot of people ask questions through the comment section. And then, of course, if you hadn't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you'll get the notice of the updates that they come out all the time. And just greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate all the support that folks give me. And speaking of support, I want to give a huge shout out to Joe Strada-HG5FO, who sent in a great super thanks. So thank you so much for that, Joe Strada, for that super thanks. That was just awesome. Blew me away what you did to support the channel, and I just appreciate folks that believe in what I do, that support me. Of course, you can, your comments and your thumbs up, subscriptions, sharing it with other folks, all that helps support. There is super thanks. There's a Patreon. You can do that. Of course, you can always go to my merch station or my merch shop and support me through that as well. Let's talk a little bit about registrations and what's going on with registrations out there. So last week, Nobo, we had 1,498, and this week we are up 1,000 to 1,675, and that is an increase of 177 Nobo. Flip-floppers, we were at 69. We've increased by 5 up to 75. And Sobo, we were at 39. We're up to 45, which is an increase of 6. So right now, we've got a total increase. Last week, total hikers registered with the ATC was 1,606, and now we are up to 1,794. We also maxed out for another day. So we are maxed out for March 1st and April 1st with 51 starts happening on each of those days. So Those are going to continue to increase, although not as much in some years. So we probably won't have that many maxed out days that occur this year. We'll see as we get along. The trend for registrations is continuing to go down from previous years. So the history of what we had, here's a graph of it. So in 2021, we had 2,357 registrations, and then in 2022, we had 2,500. So those were kind of the years post-COVID, pent-up demand, people coming in. But then in 2023, we had a little over 2,000. We had 2,040, and this year we've got 1,718. Now, all of these figures I've just given you are figures, and this graph is based upon where we are in registrations this time of the year. So mid-January, mid to late January, this is where we were. So those are not for the previous years. Those are not the total registrations. Those are where we were from my records from the previous year. In 2022, during the period from February 1st to April 30th in 2022, we had 3,292 total NOBO. So you look at this graph now, you think about where we are currently with 1,794. We're just not going to get near, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to get near to that almost 3,300 folks that registered there in 2022. So it's going to take a lot of work to get there, and I just don't see that happen. So, for example, in 2023, for the whole year for NOBO, we only had 3,057. So it looks like registrations are down. We may have just had that kind of a bubble there, the post-COVID years that people decided they wanted to get on the trail and they had put it off because of COVID, and now they are wanting to get back on the trail. So we talked about Q&A. Now's the time for Q&A. We had a question from 5 a.m. who is leaving Amicalola Falls State Park in the first week in February, and he writes, are bag tags available at Amicalola Falls State Park yet? And if not, do you have any idea when they will have them? So no bag tags, and by bag tags, we mean that little tag that they give you when you register that has what your registration number was on it. They are not available right now. And typically they do not become available until the Georgia Appalachian Trail comes down and takes over registration. So right now you're just registering with personnel from Amicalola Falls State Park in the visitor center. But then when the trail club comes, they will be registering folks either outside or in one of the outside buildings. And that is when the bag tags show up, typically sometime in around February, mid-February, possibly late February. I do know that on February 23rd, Goose and Maverick, who hiked last year, they had their tag. Their tags were there when they came to pick them up or when they came to register and start their hike. So they will be by the end of February. You know, I've had people ask me, why does the ATC not already have them? They know that we're getting ready to have that hikers are getting ready to start. Why would they not have them down there January 1? And that's a great question. Nobody's ever answered that for me. So ATC, I know you watch my channel out there. Love to have your comment as to why the bag tags don't show up January 1. You may have a perfectly legitimate reason. I would like to know that personally as well. So, and my viewers out there would like to know it. So, you can send me a DM or an email, or all those ways to contact me are down below. Love to hear what you got to say about that. And then Stick the Eagle, he asked, does supported hikers on your channel, and that's my hiker support list is what he's talking about, mean that they are on your registration list, or does it mean that something else? So I think what he was asking was, does it mean that they are being supported possibly monetarily somehow? And the answer is no. I'm not supporting over 100 hikers monetarily. That hiker support list is just a means for the hiker community to go and find Thru Hikers through their social media and go out there and give them support in the form of attaboys, attagirls, attadeys, however you identify, to go out and support you, to just give you, keep you in the mood, let them know they're behind you, let them know they're thinking about you. And then actually there's occasionally where those folks out there that have more social media going, they actually receive some tangible support. So sometimes people will send them money if they are raising money, particularly for some type of charity. Sometimes people will come and pick you up on the trail and take you home and give you a shower. So it just depends. But in any case, supported as far as what I'm doing is I'm putting you out there on the hike, on the channel, on the list, and then that way folks can come out and support you from the hiker community. In years past, I've had a Trail Angel list, and that is a resource list of trail angels up and down the trail that are willing to come and help people out there, hikers out there on the trail. So could be you need to get in an emergency in town, or you're out of food and you can't get a shuttle, or you've got to get home, or you've got an injury that you don't want to call 911, but you do need help. So these are trail angels up and down the trail, and I have a list of those. If you want to be on that list, or you have been on that list in the past, please let me know. If you can let me know where you are on the trail and what areas on the trail you cover, and how hikers, the best way for them to contact you are. And then that way, this list is typically private, but I will send it out to Thru Hikers if they ask for it. But typically I will vet those people out to make sure they truly are Thru Hikers and not just some ne'er-do-well just wanting to get the list for something bad reason. So I will make sure I vet that out to make sure they are some type of Thru Hiker out there. But if you're a trail angel and you want to be on that list, now this is not a shuttle, a pay for service list. So these are folks, trail angels, meaning they come out for free and help for free out of the goodness of their heart. So it's not a pay service. So if you're going to be on this list, you can't expect to be paid for anything. Although oftentimes hikers, and I have done this in the past, Trail Angel help me out. I will pay for their gas or do something. At least ask if I can do that. And I've also had a request for folks that want to go to church while they're hiking the trail. How do they get to church? And so in the past, there's been trail angels that have come and picked them up and took them to church. So if you're a church out there that has some folks that are willing to do that on whatever day your services are held, if you would let me know and send me where you're located down below. Down below I have all my links that you can get to me, email or DM. And if you want to let me know that your church is willing to do that, then by all means, I will let those folks that reach out to me ask. Doesn't matter if you're Protestant, Baptist, Southern Baptist, Northern Baptist, Catholic, Jewish, or any of the other religions out there. I don't know, what our dynamics are of who's out there on the trail and what religion they are, but most of the time it's Protestants that I have that reach out to me. But in any case, we don't want to leave anybody out. So if you are a church out there or trail angels willing to do that, let me know and I will get that to the correct people. And if you're a hiker out there who's working on dialing in his gear, if you're a Thru Hiker by now, you should have already had it, but a lot of section hikers are getting in their gear. I am a huge fan of Zpacks, and so right here's a video. You can go and watch that. I do a review on the Zpacks duplex tent that I have, and then also down below there are some links to Zpacks where affiliate links for me that another way you can support the channel. If you're going to buy anything from Zpacks, you can use those links, and then that way I get a very, very tiny portion of that comes back, and it doesn't cost you anything additionally. But go and check out that video, check out that review for that Zpacks duplex tent if that's something you're interested in. Folks, that's all I've got this week. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out there.